Greetings, Israel. It's your elder DFG. Hey, this is just a quick message, observation, maybe a moment of clarity that I wanted to share to the daughters of Zion. But the men of Zion, I'd ask that you give this your attention as well. And if you have thoughts about it, please feel free to put it in the comment section, okay? But that to be said, you know, in a moment of clarity this morning, I was looking at something, and it's not a new thing, but it's been pretty much on my mind for a moment. And I saw this woman of Zion, and she was in her automobile, and she was posing, and she had that energy with her. I guess what we would call, for lack of a better word, no disrespect, daughters of Zion. Let me get where I'm going before you jump to a conclusion. Okay, but I would call it the masculine energy. You know what I'm saying? That let me give my man pose on. You know what I'm saying? Let me, show my authority, which is all, fine and dandy. But as I looked at it, it was weird because I was like, I've seen that before. Nothing new to see here. That was the way my brain processed. Like, nothing new to see here. Okay, all right, whatever. Okay, yeah, yep. You look manly enough. Look feminine. You know what I'm saying? You look like a woman, but you look manly too. So, I see your energy. I see your swag. And then I thought about it. I said, I wonder if our daughters remember who their mothers and who their mothers were. That they were strong women, powerful women. They were the cornerstone during Jim Crow. Talking about all the segregation laws that were put in place, not only in America, but in other places around the world. Colonizers had their signs up too. No dogs, no, I don't know, Chinese and what have you, right? So it wasn't just in the Americas where, the biases were, the prejudice existed from those who were in positions to subjugate others. But in particular here in the Americas, during Jim Crow, we call them our grandmothers. They were the soul of the family, the foundation of the family, strong women. And you can go even farther back. You can go back into the time of our enslavement here. Our women, they were the cornerstone of the family. Not because the men were less capable, it's just that the men were not, they were not in a position to exercise any authority, because if they tried to, they could lose their lives and could get sold off. Their children could get sold off. The price was too high for many of the men that was willing to pay. And they knew in order to be able to stay with their families, they had to subjugate themselves to the conditions that they were in. And therefore, the women, had to, take upon a lot of the roles that a man would have taken on just to keep her sons alive. And the man, if he ever showed any kind of masculinity, to the whipping post he would go. If not, the noose around his neck. Now, I bring that up because the idea that our women, were being subjugated, by our men, and therefore, they needed to take a stand and show themselves to be independent, to show themselves strong, etc. Really, it was an exaggerated falsehood, for lack of a better word, because you guys have always been strong. You come from strong women. Now, that being said, how did we get to where we are today? Well, about 50 years or so, the heathens and their women were in serious conflict because their women got sick and tired of being exploited by them. They were controlling industry. They were manipulating the resources. They were rationing out, what they were indulging in, so they could go and spend and do what they wanted to do with the friends. They were in different clubs and lodges and what have you, while their women were home for the most part, taking care of the house and raising the children and, having to plead and beg with them, just for $1 to go and buy a pair of pants or a shirt or whatever they were wearing. And therefore, they decided that they would, rebel. They would fight back. But in order to fight back, they needed numbers. And they didn't have enough numbers just within themselves. So what they did is that they recruited all women, in particular women of color, if they would have called them then, the daughters of Zion, because they needed the numbers. Not that they compared their situation to, to those of to others, because they were never that naive. They knew their situation was better than any so-called black woman in America. They knew that from the start. They were living in homes and pretty much had the American dream, and their counterpart, women, other women's, we'll just say women of color, were just lucky if they could keep the rent paid and keep food on the table. And they knew that. They knew their men were controlling all the high-paying jobs, and they were creating suburbs and all kinds of subsidies, for their families, where, our men, quite frankly, were denied access to those things for the most part. Few of us were able to get it, but the majority of us, there were segregation laws and rules, and then they had their police called the Klan to ensure that if any of our men tried to buck that system again, a rope could end up around their neck. And we know this is true history. It's not conflation of facts. But in order to get their way, to put pressure on their men so that they could have things for themselves, things that they wanted, they needed to recruit. They recruited our daughters. They recruited our mothers. I'm talking about over the last 50 years. And that gave them the numbers, and that gave them the influence, and ultimately that brought about the change that they were looking for. So now here we are in 2024. And the strange thing is starting to happen. They're going back home. White women and other so-called American women, non-Israelite women, are going back home now. And they're raising their families. They're supporting their husbands. They're shifted because they got what they wanted. They wanted to be heard, and they were heard. But they also understood if they continued that path, ultimately they would have to pay a price with their men, their sons, that they just knew at the end of the day it wasn't worth it. So they got what they needed. They have the respect that they wanted. And now they're going back home because what they refused to do is lose the relationship of the family. They understood that the family is everything. But they forgot to tell that to our daughters. Or better yet, they encouraged our daughters to continue on. They used the Beyoncés, the Cardi B's, whomever, the Whoopies, the Oprah, all of them, to push, this agenda that, I don't really need a man to be happy. I don't really need a man to be successful. I don't really need a man to have a family. Hell, my dog and cat could do that for me. If I need attention, my dog and cat could give me all the attention and no problems. But, and there's a big but here, that has a ceiling to it. They knew it had a ceiling to it. Because they knew just as their men would get, to a place where their men decided they didn't want them anymore, didn't need them anymore, didn't care about them anymore, and therefore their men would turn to other women who still were embracing their womanhood. And they realized real soon, we better bring this in. We better reel this back in. All of our sons are going to be marrying up with the Asians and others, including some of you. So they pulled it back in fast enough. Yet, all the while encouraging our daughters to just, just don't react, don't respond, just go get yours by any means necessary. Even if that meant you did it alone, you did it by yourselves. Knowing that at some point your men, just like they men would have done had they continued that path, that your men would begin to lose interest in you. And therefore, passport bros, all this stuff has come into the conversation. And it's only going to get progressively worse. I.e. is why I had this moment of clarity to want to share this message. Because when that day and time ultimately comes, if nothing changes, daughters of Zion, I'm talking to you, then your men will lose total interest in you in regards to seeing you as a helpmate, an asset, someone they want to love and build and grow and have a family with. And that is not a good thing. I know some of you probably think it is, but it isn't a good thing. It's so much not a good thing that the Most High Yahuwah wrote in the book of Isaiah that a time would come that your services will not only not be desired, but no longer necessary, as well, that it would get so bad that 7 of you will be looking, hoping to find one man that still had enough love in his heart to embrace you. Now, this is the Most High who wrote this. This is not your brother, so don't get angry about this. This is the Most High saying this is how it ends if nothing changes. It says that your situation is going to be so bad that you're going to have the bag. You're going to have all the independence that you could have ever hoped for. But what you're not going to have is the love and protection that only your family can give. A real family, not cats and dogs. And it would get so bad that you would become a reproof. A reproach before Yahuwah. And that is exactly where this is going. And that's why I take the time to bring it to your attention. Hopefully, so you can reel it back in. As your so-called, sisters in arms have already done. Look around. They're not the picture of independence anymore. You start to see them, they're with their families. They're with their children. They're with their husbands. You with your girlfriends. Or your cat, your dog. So it's just something to think about. And you know how your elder is. I'll say it since nobody else wants to say it, so I'll say it. And whatever comes with that, comes with that. I know that I'm saying it out of love, and I know I'm saying it out of respect, and I know I'm saying it to women who have a rich history, although a forgotten history, of being strong and independent, but never separating themselves from their men. They were wise. They understood that the family was more important than anything, including a big paycheck. So just think about it, reflect upon it. I hope you will. Share the message. Obviously, thumb it up. And that being said, you were already strong. You were already the salt of the earth. You were taken advantage of to push an agenda, and now left out, or potentially you're going to be left out in the cold when a vicious winter is coming. Shalom.